Hey group, just I'm popping in. Just wanted to talk about nutrition. I had promised some things. Uh, we want to talk about how really calorie counting isn't the thing to do. And I've had since young people that have gone to school for nutrition and things like that try to argue. And it's hard with people like that because they go to school and then they trust their schooling, which we can see that it happens a lot. I mean, a lot. Look at all the stuff that we're busting that was in doctors' schooling that we know is wrong. You know, Dr. Jaquish and I have been doing quite a few videos on a lot of that stuff. Um, Sorry, I haven't been making as many videos as I'd like to, but um, tr- a lot of planning for this trip to Sweden. I'm doing a lot of thinking um, with this video that we're going to create with Johan and the whole trip and everything. So, but basically, to get started on this, we got to think of a calorie is just what would be considered a unit of heat. Okay, and everybody puts it as like calories in, calories out. The thing is, our body doesn't operate in that way. If it was caloric based, it wouldn't matter what mixture of food we ate, we would end up with the same results if we ate the same amount of calories. And we know if we ate a couple thousand calories a day in carbohydrates, our muscles would atrophy. We would become incredibly ill from a lot of problems, end up with type 2 diabetes. We'd be obese with no muscle mass. Um, and, caloric wise, you could count carbohydrates because we can use and store every bit of it. Okay. And then some saturated fats. But other than that, there are food like protein, for example. Protein, our body first is going to use it for as many building blocks as it possibly can. But we can only grow muscle at a certain rate. We can grow fat at just a constant, steady rate. Muscle, you know, it only grows at a certain rate. And if we eat an overabundance of more protein than our body can use, only one amino acid can be converted to glucose, and it's not even at a rate of speed enough to even feed our basic brain function. The rest of it gets burned off as heat. That's why there's always those guys that talk about getting the meat sweats when they eat. What happens? Your blood aminos get really high. Your body releases insulin, tries to take it up. Um, if your if your blood sugars are low and the and usable fats are low in your bloodstream, there's one amino acid that can slowly be broken down to little bits of glucose. Um, that's it. Otherwise, it all gets burned off as heat. It's not stored. Okay. That's why when we get ready for a bodybuilding competition in the old days, guys should eat 500 grams of pure protein a day and they would still lose 3, 4 pounds a week, but they keep all their muscle. And people argue that, on the scale, this and that and whatever. No, you could easily eat a couple thousand calories worth of protein in a day. I'm not saying everybody could easily do that, but you could if you ate just lean protein and then add in something like MCT oil. MCT oil converts to ketones. Our body can use it as energy, but it can't store it. So again, the extra amount that is in our blood will get burned off as heat as well. Okay? And Olive oil is something very unique. Olive oil actually helps release fat. And a lot of these things we can use as energy, but our body doesn't store them. Okay. And I've shown this with, all the studies done on olive oil. There isn't like a meta analysis done, but every single study done on olive oil, just adding olive oil to people's diets, they get leaner. There's not one study that, the outcome isn't positive. And I've done it. I had a calorie, I proved it. And I've said this before where I was eating just like chicken tenderloins and egg whites, a little bit of egg yolks for the building. Some of those, it's really important. I'd eat some egg yolks. Other than that, I was having over a cup a day of olive oil. And then just at that time, I was training quite a bit with balance and things like that. And I know I was burning quite a bit, but my carbs were a little bit of, I had white rice and then some fruit. My caloric intake, I would guess with the olive oil was probably 3,500, something like that. And I got leaner by the day. I, because it was mostly protein and olive oil. And then I was using the carbohydrates that I was eating. And then one day a week when I didn't train, I would just eat a couple meals of really lean protein and sprinkle a little olive oil on it. But the days that I trained, my calories were in a well surplus, and we can only put on muscle so fast. You can't gain, like they say it's going to show up on the scale. Is, somebody likes to throw the word thermodynamics around, so it sounds more, they sound smarter than they are. Yeah, it's thermodynamics, but our body doesn't work it the same every way. A lot of it gets just burned off as heat, and that doesn't get stored, so it doesn't count that way. Carbohydrates and certain saturated fats do count that way because our body can store them and use them. But there's other fats and even saturated fats because MCT oil is saturated fats, but they're short chain and they convert to ketones immediately and are just used as energy. What you don't use, you're just going to be warm. It's going to burn off. If you drink too much of it, you might shit some of it out. Now, olive oil has very similar effects. And my buddy Johan, a while back, was really weighed down. His fat intake from all the meat and everything else was like 300 and some grams. I said, cut that down in half and then throw a cup of olive oil in your food. Johan felt much better and got leaner, but his calories did not drop. His calories stayed the same, but he got leaner and slowly started putting on more muscle because of his training. And, olive oil's got a lot of omega 9s in it. If you study omega 9s, we do need omega 9s in the process of building muscle as well. So, olive oil, some of the phytochemicals in it, they're really unique. They seem to help release fat and stored fat. And the omega 9s are really, really good for many properties in the body. I could go on a whole section on omega 9s. We ain't got time for that today, but so we could literally put a person on 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day if it was lean protein and things like MCT oil and stuff like that, and they would actually get leaner and lose weight. Now, you switch that around and you start eating a bunch of ribeyes and some carbohydrates. Well, that's a traffic jam in the bloodstream. Your body's going to use the carbohydrates as energy first because that's easiest, and it's going to store whatever it can from the ribeyes. And if that's where a lot of guys go wrong with carnivore. You wouldn't believe all the guys that I talk to that, well, I'm carnivore and I lost some weight, but you know, I haven't lost much more weight, and their diet is literally ribeyes and cheese and bacon, and their fat intake's higher than their protein. Well, there you have it. You know, um, another thing is when we eat the same thing every day, our body will find homeostasis, and it will adjust itself to stagnate and just stay there. So the first 12 weeks that guys, they say they go on OMAD, but they're counting their calories and they eat the same meal every day. The one meal a day, but it's the same meal every day. And they originally will drop like 20 pounds and then it stagnates. Well, that's because your body's metabolism has adjusted to that. You have to eat according to your energy output, your training, things like that. You got to have a day where if you're inactive, you just don't eat hardly at all, just some really lean protein. Um, if you're busting your ass and training twice in a day or something, you got to eat some protein in between your meals so you can recover. Your training, if it's hard enough, it makes the body think that the muscle mass is needed for survival. So it's anabolic, and our body is going to do what it can to preserve that muscle. So as long as we're feeding it enough protein, it's going to preserve the muscle. And then we can give it bits of energy like MCT oil, olive oil, things like that. So it doesn't feel like it's starving of energy, but it doesn't have anything to store. And it will freely burn fat and build muscle at the same time. And then the carbohydrate thing, we know carbohydrates are, eat them naturally when you eat carbohydrates, just from whole food sources. Don't mess with it. But the amount needed is way less than anybody ever thought. And anything over what you're going to normally use is either going to go to fat storage, but that's where, especially, processed carbohydrates, that's the leading cause of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, dementia, you name it. That's one of the leading causes of that sort of stuff. And if somebody still eats too many carbohydrates that has a sedentary life, can still end up with high blood sugars and looking at, type 2 diabetes, things like that. So this discussion, I'm going to give some discussions to come more on Humanifort, of course, talking about stem cell production and all kinds of other stuff. But Emmerich been very busy, and I've been busy with my thing, and so I owe some videos for Humanifort, and I still owe another video talking about TRT, branching off of that a little more. But I just wanted to have this conversation with everybody about diet. Okay. It's like Johan right now. Um, I have like a regular regimen that he would eat on normal days, but then on days that he's not active, it's just basically lean protein. And then one day a week when he's feeling flat and down, it's like a heavy leg day or something. You tell them to eat extra fruit, couple avocados, this, throw some extra food in there. Your body will suck it up and you'll keep your metabolism going. If you can't eat the same every single day. So, with that said, I'll be ending this video here, and Any questions, of course, hit me up. I hope everybody has a great day. Bye.